The stars outside the Unity twinkled against the dark backdrop of space like diamonds scattered across velvet. I stood at the command center, feeling the familiar hum of the ship beneath my feet, a comforting reminder of its steadfastness amid the uncertain storm ahead. Today, we were about to initiate contact with the Rackle, a race recently thrust into the galactic spotlight, known for their intelligence but physically delicate nature. We were here to prove to them that humanity could be allies, not adversaries. Captain Voss, Lieutenant Orion's voice broke through my thoughts, pulling me back to the present. He stood at the communications console, his dark eyes scanning the monitors. "We're nearing the designated meeting point. The Rackle ambassador is on the line." "Patch him through," I replied, straightening my uniform. A moment later, the image of a slender figure appeared on the screen, its skin a shimmering shade of blue, with large, expressive eyes that seemed to shimmer with both curiosity and caution. "Ambassador Tikal," I greeted, forcing confidence into my voice. "We are honored to meet you." "Captain Voss," Tikal responded, the translator device subtly altering the melodic cadence of his speech into something more familiar. "Your reputation precedes you. I trust you understand the importance of this meeting." "Absolutely," I replied. "It's crucial that we establish a mutually beneficial relationship. The Coalition believes that our cooperation can lead to a more prosperous future for both our species." The ambassador's eyes narrowed slightly, skepticism flickering across his features. "You humans are known for your resilience, Captain. Many fear that this endurance masks an underlying ferocity. Our people value peace and diplomacy above all." "We're not here to threaten your way of life," I said firmly. "We want to work alongside you, not dominate you. We come in peace." The ambassador's expression softened, but I could still sense his unease. "Then let us proceed with caution. I will relay our discussions to the Council." With a nod, I acknowledged his words, feeling a knot of tension twist in my stomach. I turned to Orion, who was monitoring the surroundings outside the ship. "Status report?" I asked. "All systems are green," he confirmed. "We're ready to go." "But Captain, I can't shake the feeling that something isn't right." "I know what you mean," I replied. "Keep an eye out for anything unusual. We don't know how tense their political climate is." With that, we initiated the docking sequence. As the Unity slowly moved towards the Rackle station, I felt the weight of the mission pressing on my shoulders. The stakes were high, and any misstep could endanger not only our lives, but also the fragile trust we were trying to build. The airlock hissed as the doors opened, revealing the metallic confines of the Rackle station. I led my team Orion, Lieutenant Harris, and Specialist Chen into the brightly lit hallway, our boots echoing against the polished floors. The station was bustling with Rackle, their delicate frames moving gracefully, but the atmosphere felt charged with a palpable tension. I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched. The Rackle ambassador awaited us at the end of the hall, flanked by several guards. Tikal gestured for us to approach. "Welcome to our home, humans. Please, let us proceed to the conference chamber." We followed him down a corridor adorned with intricate holographic art that depicted Rackle history stories of wisdom and peace. Yet, beneath the beauty, I sensed an underlying current of apprehension. The Rackle had only recently opened their doors to the galactic community, and it was clear that many within their ranks were not yet comfortable with the idea of human interaction. As we entered the conference chamber, I felt a knot of anxiety tighten in my chest. The room was spacious, with a long table at its center. Above it, a domed ceiling displayed a swirling nebula, reminding me of the vastness of space outside. We took our seats, and I exchanged glances with my team, silently urging them to remain calm. Tikal sat across from me, his expression still wary. "Shall we begin?" he asked, and I nodded. "First, we'd like to outline our goals for this meeting," I began, but before I could finish, a sudden commotion erupted from outside the chamber. The door burst open, and a group of Rackle guards stormed in, their faces a mask of fear. "Ambassador, the rebels are attacking," one of them shouted, panic evident in his voice. The air suddenly thickened with tension, and I felt adrenaline spike through me. "What do you mean? Who is attacking?" I asked, rising from my seat. "Factions who oppose the alliance," the guard replied. "They view the humans as a threat to our autonomy." "Get down," I shouted, pushing Tikal out of the way as a plasma blast ricocheted off the wall, narrowly missing us. Chaos erupted as the room filled with screams and the sounds of blaster fire. My team instinctively fell into formation around me, weapons drawn. "Orion, cover Tikal," I barked, adrenaline coursing through my veins. "Harris, Chen, we need to find an exit." As I moved to shield Tikal, I caught a glimpse of the rebel rabble bursting into the chamber, their faces contorted with anger. They wielded weapons with an unsettling zeal, convinced they were defending their people from what they saw as an invasion. "Retreat! Fall back!" I shouted, trying to steer my team towards the nearest exit. But just as we began to move, another plasma bolt struck my side. The searing pain coursed through me, and I stumbled, feeling warmth spill across my abdomen. I could sense the shock in the eyes of the rabble as I staggered but refused to fall. "Captain," Orion yelled, rushing to my side. "Keep going," I ordered, gritting my teeth against the pain. "We have to get Tikal to safety." As the fighting intensified, I could feel the burning heat of the wound start to fade, the familiar sensation of my body's regenerative capabilities kicking in. The wound began to close before my eyes, flesh knitting together in a grotesque yet mesmerizing dance. I could sense the astonishment from the rabble around me, their expressions shifting from aggression to fear as they realized the impossible nature of what they were witnessing. "Follow me," Orion shouted, dragging me towards a side exit. We rushed through a narrow hallway, pushing past chaos and confusion. The sounds of blaster fire echoed behind us, a grim reminder of the battle raging just outside. I leaned heavily against the wall, the pain subsiding only slightly as my body worked to heal. "Keep moving," I urged, forcing myself onward. I could feel Orion's steadying presence at my side, his determination a lifeline in the chaos. Behind us, Tikal's guards scrambled to keep pace, their eyes wide with a mix of fear and wonder at my apparent invulnerability. We reached a small chamber off the main corridor, and I quickly sealed the door behind us, locking it just as a loud crash echoed from the other side. Breathing heavily, I turned to Tikal, whose eyes were fixed on me with a mixture of awe and horror. What are you?" he asked, his voice trembling. "I'm human," I replied, forcing the words through gritted teeth. "And I'm not going to let you die today." Tikal's gaze flickered to the closed door, and I could see the wheels turning in his mind. "You're unlike any being I've encountered," he murmured, half to himself. "Your endurance, your ability to heal, what is it?" "It's part of who we are," I explained, feeling a strange sense of urgency. "But we need to work together if we're going to survive this." The ambassador hesitated, his large eyes darting between my wound and the door. "If we ally, it will be seen as treachery by my people." "Then we'll have to convince them it's not," Orion chimed in, his voice steady despite the chaos outside. "We have no choice. If we don't join forces, we'll all be overwhelmed." Tikal looked between us, the fear in his eyes slowly morphing into resolve. "Very well. I will lead the charge to unite our people against the rebels, but you must promise to stand by our side." "I promise," I said, feeling a sense of determination surge within me. The weight of leadership settled on my shoulders, but I could feel my body recovering with every passing moment. "Let's make sure we give them a reason to think twice about attacking." With a nod, Tikal activated his communicator, rallying his remaining guards to meet at our location. As they arrived, I quickly briefed them on our plan. We would counterattack together, combining our strategies and utilizing the rable's advanced technology alongside our human resilience. "Remember, they see us as a threat," I warned. "They may not be willing to listen." As the guards prepared their weapons, I felt a surge of adrenaline wash over me. The rebels might think they had the upper hand, but they hadn't witnessed what I had. They didn't know the lengths we would go to protect our allies. When the door burst open, we charged out as a united front, weapons drawn and hearts pounding. The rebels were momentarily taken aback by our sudden advance. The sight of a human soldier at the forefront, barely stitched together yet still standing, shocked them into hesitation. "Now!" I shouted, and we surged forward, our combined forces overwhelming the rebels with a fury they hadn't anticipated. Plasma bolts lit up the corridor as we fought back with fierce determination. The Rackle and humans fought side by side, and despite the initial shock, we began to push the rebels back. I could feel my own body continuing to heal, every wound closed and reinvigorated by the adrenaline coursing through my veins. The more I fought, the stronger I felt. Orion and I flanked Tikal, pushing deeper into the fray. "Watch your flanks," I shouted, ducking a blast that whizzed past me. Orion took a position near the ambassador, providing cover fire as Tikal rallied his guards. In the chaos, I caught a glimpse of one of the rebel leaders, a tall Rackle with a dark mark across his face, rallying his troops. "This is our home. We will not allow these outsiders to dictate our fate," he roared. Fueled by anger and fear, I charged at him, determination propelling me forward. The moment we collided, I could see the surprise in his eyes as I tackled him to the ground, grappling for control. He struggled beneath me, but I pushed through the pain, my body refusing to yield. "Get off me," he spat, thrashing. "You'll pay for this betrayal." I delivered a sharp blow to his side, my breath coming in gasps. "No more. This is not how we do things." Before I could react, another rebel charged at me from the side, and I rolled to avoid the attack. My regenerative abilities kicked in as I felt a pain flaring up my side from the earlier blast. I forced myself back to my feet, adrenaline surging through me as I prepared to defend against the next wave of attackers. But before I could engage again, Tikal's guards managed to flank the rebel leader, disarming him. They forced him to the ground, and Tikal stepped forward, his voice firm. "Enough. You would risk our entire race for your misguided rebellion." The rebel leader looked up, fear flashing in his eyes as he realized he was outnumbered. "You don't understand. The humans will destroy us." "No," Tikal replied, his voice steady. "They saved me today. They saved all of us. If we don't unite, we will fall together." The fight continued around us, but the tide had turned. As the rebel forces began to waver, I could see the other Rackle soldiers growing more confident, emboldened by our unexpected alliance. Together, we pushed back the remaining rebels, reclaiming the corridor inch by inch. With each victory, I felt a weight lift. Despite the chaos, the realization that we had formed an unlikely alliance resonated deeply within me. When the last of the rebels surrendered, silence fell over the chamber, broken only by the labored breaths of the fighters. Tikal surveyed the scene, his expression a mix of disbelief and gratitude. "We did it," he murmured, looking between the remaining Rackle and us. "Not yet," I cautioned, still on high alert. "We need to ensure that no others are coming." Orion nodded in agreement, scanning the room for threats. "We should check the perimeter. There might be more rebels hiding." After a thorough sweep, we gathered back in the main chamber. I could see the apprehension lingering in the eyes of the Rackle guards, the remnants of their fears slowly giving way to respect. Tikal turned to me, his demeanor shifting from fear to contemplation. "You have proven yourself, Captain Voss. Perhaps we have misjudged your people. Your strength, your ability to endure it is both terrifying and impressive." I nodded, feeling the fatigue creeping into my bones. "We all have our strengths, and it seems our differences can make us stronger when combined." He glanced at the rebel leader, who was being restrained nearby. "The council will need to discuss this alliance. There will be those who resist, who will see your people as a threat. But I believe you have given me enough evidence to argue for our unity." "We will stand by you, Tikal," I replied, determination rising within me. "We'll do everything we can to support you." As we left the chamber, I felt a sense of accomplishment wash over me, mingled with the stark reality of the day's events. The first scar had been made, both in my body and in the fragile relationship between our species. The Rackle may have been wary of us, But as I walked beside Tikal, I could sense the seeds of something more taking root, a bond forged in conflict and survival. As we reboarded the Unity, I took one last look at the Rackle station, the beauty of their world contrasting sharply with the violence we had just witnessed. We were no longer just visitors, we were allies, united against the chaos of the universe. "Captain," Orion said, breaking my reverie. "What now?" I turned to him, my resolve firm. "Now, we prepare for what comes next. We've shown the Rackle what humanity can endure. It's time to show them what we can achieve together." Weeks had passed since our harrowing encounter with the Rackle. The uneasy alliance between humanity and the Rackle had begun to solidify, but the tensions ran deep, lurking just beneath the surface like a coiled spring. I stood on the bridge of the Unity, our vessel, watching the swirling patterns of the distant stars as we made our way toward a neutral moon designated for further negotiations. I couldn't shake the feeling that we were heading into a trap. "Captain Voss," Orion's voice pulled me from my thoughts. He stepped up beside me, his brow furrowed with concern. "Are you sure this is wise? The Rackle still don't fully trust us." I turned to him, the light of distant suns glinting off the edges of his uniform. "Trust takes time, Orion. We need to prove ourselves to them, especially after the last incident. This meeting could be the key to securing a lasting alliance." Orion nodded, but his unease remained palpable. "Let's hope they're not planning to test us too hard." As we approached the moon, my communicator crackled to life. "Captain Voss, this is Ambassador Cathar. We've arrived at the rendezvous coordinates, but we've detected unusual energy readings coming from the surface. There's something off about this place." "Can you clarify?" I asked, scanning the monitors. The readings danced erratically, hinting at interference. "Reports indicate an abandoned station, Captain. However, recent scans show signs of hostile life." Cathar's voice turned urgent. "We believe the Driel have taken control of the facility. All communications from the station have ceased." My gut twisted at the mention of the Driel. They were a brutal race, known for their merciless tactics and love for ambushes. "Prepare for immediate evasive maneuvers," I ordered. "Get us into orbit and assess our options." "Captain, we're too close. We'll be an easy target," Orion protested, looking over the sensors, but the alarms blared before he could finish. A series of red lights blinked ominously, and the ship shuddered as we were rocked by incoming fire. "Brace for impact," I shouted, gripping the console as the ship swayed beneath us. The Unity spun wildly, and I struggled to regain control, the ship's systems screaming in protest. "Engineering, what's our status?" I barked. "Shields are at 50% and dropping," came the frantic reply. "We need to disengage." "Divert all power to shields and maneuvering thrusters," I commanded. Just then, an explosive blast rocked us again, sending Orion staggering backward. He regained his footing, eyes wide. "We're going down, Captain." "Deploy emergency protocols. Prepare for an emergency landing," I yelled, fighting against the controls as the alarms screamed and lights flickered. With a final, jarring shake, we crash-landed on the surface, skidding to a halt in a cloud of dust and debris. As the echoes of the crash subsided, a grim silence filled the cabin. "Status report," I demanded, the weight of the situation pressing heavily on my chest. "Life support is stable, but we're grounded." "The Driel will be here any moment," Orion replied, his voice laced with urgency. I glanced at Cathar, who was scanning the sensors. The Rackle ambassador's usually composed features were tense with apprehension. "We must move quickly. The Driel are notorious for their hunting tactics. They will not let us go easily. Let's regroup and assess our options." "We can't stay here," I said, my mind racing as I took stock of our supplies. Food, medical kits, and weaponry were all limited, and we had no clear way to call for help. As we prepared to disembark, I could feel the tension coiling in my gut. The last thing we needed was to underestimate the enemy, and the Driel were masters of ambush. We stepped out into the cold, alien landscape, the station looming in the distance like a dark monolith against the sky. "Stay close and keep your weapons ready," I instructed, scanning the surroundings for movement. As we approached the station, the air thickened with a metallic tang of fear. A sudden rustle from the nearby shadows caught my attention, and I raised my weapon instinctively. The Rackle were on edge, their eyes darting around, but I forced myself to maintain my focus. Before we could make a plan, the drill struck. They emerged from the shadows like wraiths, their elongated limbs moving with terrifying speed. The ambush was swift and merciless, and chaos erupted. "Fall back," I shouted, firing my weapon into the fray. My shots rang true, and a drill crumpled, but more surged forward. Orion was at my side, his engineering skills never having prepared him for this kind of combat. He fired his weapon with practiced efficiency, but in the confusion, a drill leaped at him. I barely had time to react as I lunged forward, but the creature knocked him to the ground, its claws slashing at his side. "No!" I roared, adrenaline surging through me. I charged forward, tackling the creature off of Orion. The two of us rolled on the ground, grappling for dominance. I felt its claws rake across my side, but I pushed through the pain, summoning every ounce of strength I had to drive my elbow into its skull. The drill went limp, and I quickly turned back to Orion, who lay gasping for breath. I could see the deep gash across his abdomen, blood pooling on the ground. "Get up, we need to move," I urged, panic flooding my voice. "Noah, I can't," he managed, wincing as he tried to sit up. "Damn it, Orion, you're tougher than this. We can't leave you behind," I shouted, scrambling to my feet as the rest of the drill continued to close in. Cathar was nearby, firing rapidly at the approaching foes, but the Rackle ambassador's resolve was wavering. "We must retreat. We can't win this fight." I felt my heart drop. If we didn't get Orion out of here, we'd lose our best chance of survival. "Help me," I yelled, grasping Orion under his arms and dragging him backward. "Keep firing," I shouted to Cathar, who barely nodded as he unleashed a volley of shots toward the drill. But the numbers were overwhelming, and I could see the lines of the enemy forces growing thicker. "Orion, stay with me. We'll get through this," I urged, gritting my teeth against the sharp pain in my side. With each movement, I could feel my own wounds reopening, blood seeping through my uniform. But I pushed the pain aside, focusing solely on getting us to safety. As we stumbled back, the shadows of the station grew darker and more foreboding. "Captain, we can't go on like this. We'll be overrun," Cathar yelled, desperation in his voice. "No, we have to keep going," I shot back, dragging Orion through the fading light. As we retreated deeper into the station, I could feel the drill closing in. Orion was barely conscious, and the weight of his injury pulled me down. My own injuries throbbed with every step, but I couldn't give in. I wouldn't let my team down. We stumbled through the dimly lit corridors, the flickering lights casting long shadows that danced menacingly along the walls. I could hear the sounds of the drill behind us, their chittering voices echoing through the hallways. "Keep moving. We can find an escape route," I urged, even as doubt crept into my mind. But hope was dwindling. Orion's breaths were shallow, and the sounds of the drill were growing closer. My resolve hardened as I looked at Cathar, who was now visibly shaken. "We'll find a way," I said, though I felt the weight of my words. We rounded a corner, and I spotted a door marked with a warning symbol. "In here!" I shouted, pushing it open. The room was a storage area, filled with debris and broken machinery. As I set Orion down, I scanned the area for anything useful. Cathar moved to help him, but I could see the worry etched on his features. "What do we do now?" he asked, glancing back toward the entrance. "Hold them off. I'll find something we can use to escape," I replied, forcing myself to sound more confident than I felt. The sounds of the drill echoed through the hall, growing ever closer. I rummaged through the debris, desperation driving my search. I needed anything that could give us a chance. Finally, I spotted an emergency escape pod tucked away in the corner. "Here, I found a pod," I shouted, my heart racing as I moved toward it. Can it be launched? Cathar asked, checking the controls. I'll figure it out, I replied, forcing the door open and peering inside. It was cramped, but I could see it was functional. Get Orion, I commanded, watching as Cathar rushed to his side. Orion's eyes were glassy, his body trembling as he fought to remain conscious. Orion, we're getting out of here, just hold on, I urged, fighting back the rising tide of fear. With Cathar's help, we managed to lift Orion and carry him toward the pod. The drill's voices were growing louder, echoing through the hallways like a death knell. Get inside, now, I ordered, pushing them both into the pod. Can you launch it? Cathar asked, panic creeping into his voice. I'll try, I replied, rushing to the controls. I frantically pressed buttons, praying the systems were operational. Please work, I murmured, my heart racing as I felt the ground tremble beneath us. The drill were close. I needed this to work. Launching in 5, 4, 3, I counted, fear flooding my veins. The pod shuddered, and alarms blared. Now, I shouted, hitting the final button. With a jolt, the pod shot away from the station, the darkness of space swallowing us as we fled the chaos behind. We hurtled into the void, the shaking finally subsiding. I collapsed back against the wall, breathing heavily. Cathar was checking on Orion, and I could see the worry etched on his face. He's hurt badly, Cathar said, glancing up at me with fear in his eyes. I know, I replied, fighting against my own exhaustion. But we're alive. We can make it. As we drifted in silence, I couldn't shake the feeling of dread that hung over us. We had escaped, but the encounter with the drill would leave scars. Ambassador, I said, my voice shaky, we need to find a way to alert the fleet and warn them of the drill presence. Cathar nodded, his features grave. Yes, this was only a small taste of their tactics. If they've established a base here, we need to act quickly. Orion stirred, his eyes fluttering open. Noah, what happened? He croaked, his voice weak. We escaped. But you're hurt, I replied, kneeling beside him. I'm fine, he insisted, though his pallor betrayed him. Just keep going. Always, I said, offering him a reassuring smile. Just hold on for me. As I monitored the systems, a sense of determination washed over me. We had survived the shadows of the drill, but we needed to be ready for whatever lay ahead. We'll regroup with the Rackle forces and figure this out, I said, my voice steady. But first, we need to get you both to safety. A month had passed since our narrow escape from the clutches of the drill, and while the memory still lingered like a bitter taste, we found ourselves in a place that promised a brighter future. The Rackle homeworld was a breathtaking spectacle, its vast cities sprawling across landscapes adorned with vibrant flora and shimmering biolite organisms. But beneath the beauty lay an undercurrent of tension that was palpable as we prepared for the conference meant to finalize our truce. I stood alongside Orion, the fresh scars from our previous encounter still healing on our bodies and minds. This time, we were more than soldiers, we were diplomats, representatives of humanity's resolve and strength. You ready for this? Orion asked, adjusting his jacket, his eyes scanning the alien skyline. As ready as I'll ever be, I replied, forcing a smile. Let's just hope they don't decide to test us again. The conference hall was an imposing structure, crafted from Rackle technology that glimmered with an otherworldly sheen. As we entered, I could see a mix of Rackle dignitaries, their expressions guarded yet curious. Cathar, our ambassador from the last encounter, greeted us with a nod. The council is eager to discuss the final terms of our alliance, but be wary. There are those among my people who remain skeptical of humanity. I'm not surprised, Orion muttered. After what happened last time, it's hard to blame them. As we took our seats, the atmosphere thickened with anticipation. The council began to discuss the terms, but I could sense the unease in the room. I caught Cathar's eye, and he offered a faint smile, but it did little to ease my nerves. Just as I was about to speak, the lights flickered ominously, and the hairs on the back of my neck stood up. Then the alarms blared. Drill! A voice shouted from the back of the room, chaos erupting as the doors exploded inward, and drill forces poured into the chamber. The atmosphere shifted instantly from diplomatic to deadly, and the Rackle delegates scrambled for cover. "Get down," I shouted, grabbing Orion and pulling him behind a column as blaster fire erupted around us. The Rackle were in disarray, their instincts to flee battling against the instinct to fight. "Why aren't they defending themselves?" Orion yelled, peeking out to see a group of drill advancing on us, their sinister forms twisted and malevolent. "They see us as a liability," I replied, frustration lacing my voice. "They think we'll only get in the way." We needed to turn the tide. I glanced at Orion, who was already gathering himself to act. "You find a way to secure an escape route. I'll hold them off," I said, adrenaline coursing through my veins. "Noah, you can't take them on alone," Orion protested, eyes wide with concern. "I can't let them eliminate us without a fight," I replied, determination hardening my resolve. "We need to show them we're not helpless." With that, I took a deep breath and burst from our cover, firing at the nearest drill. The shots rang out, and the creature fell with a sickening thud. "We're not going down without a fight," I shouted, adrenaline and fury driving me forward. As I fought, I could see the Rackle's hesitation slowly evaporating. Some began to raise their weapons, instinctively following my lead, but not all of them were convinced. They were torn between fear and the realization that the drill were a common enemy. But then it happened. In the heat of battle, a drill lunged at me from the shadows, slashing my arm with its claws. Pain lanced through me, and I gritted my teeth, refusing to give in. I fought back, my instincts kicking in, but I could feel my strength waning. "Captain!" Orion shouted from behind a barricade, but I could barely hear him over the sounds of chaos. My vision blurred, and I stumbled backward, struggling to regain my footing. I was bleeding heavily, the crimson pooling around my feet, but I pressed on, refusing to back down. It was then that I felt something strange. The pain began to subside, and to my astonishment, I could feel the wounds on my arm begin to close, the flesh knitting together before my very eyes. I staggered, the sight both shocking and surreal. "Look!" Cathar gasped, his voice rising above the din of the battle. The Rackle around him paused, their expressions shifting from fear to disbelief, as they witnessed my wounds healing in real time. "What kind of sorcery is this?" one Rackle delegate whispered, horror and fascination etched on their face. With newfound energy surging through me, I straightened my back and raised my weapon again. "This is not sorcery. This is humanity," I shouted, the words pouring out of me as if they were the rallying cry we needed. "Human wounds heal?" Cathar exclaimed, eyes wide. "This is unnatural." I could see a shift in the Rackle's demeanor. Their initial fear was slowly being replaced with curiosity and respect. They began to fire alongside me, no longer hesitant to engage. "Look at him! Look at how he fights!" Cathar shouted, pointing at me. "He does not fear death. He embraces it and defies it. This is what we need." Orion, his expression a mix of awe and determination, rushed forward, executing a series of tactical maneuvers to keep the drill at bay. "I'll create distractions. Keep moving," he shouted, and I could see the Rackle beginning to rally, drawn in by the spectacle of human endurance. With a burst of energy, I charged forward, firing at the nearest group of drill, my blood still seeping but no longer a hindrance. As I fought, my wounds healed more rapidly, and I could feel the adrenaline coursing through my veins like a raging river. It was a brutal dance of combat, the chaos swirling around us, and yet somehow, in that moment, I felt a connection with the Rackle delegates. We were all fighting for survival, for our futures. As the drill forces pressed in, I caught Cathar's eye again. He was firing with renewed vigor, no longer just an observer, but a participant in this fight for existence. We moved together, dodging blast and returning fire, the drill realizing too late that they had underestimated us. I could see the fear in their eyes as they realized we were not the easy prey they had assumed. As we pushed back the assault, I felt the Rackle beginning to understand. They were witnessing the power of humanity's tenacity, the raw will to survive against insurmountable odds. "We can't let them eliminate us," I shouted, rallying the others. "Fight for your people, fight for our alliance." Then came the moment of clarity. The Driel were retreating. Their advance faltered as they faced our united front, and I could see the panic spreading among their ranks. With one final push, we forced them back, the remaining forces scrambling to escape. Breathing heavily, I turned to Orion, who was panting beside me. "Did we do it?" he asked, disbelief in his voice. "We did," I replied, glancing around at the Rackle. They were battered, but we had emerged victorious together. Cathar approached, his expression a mixture of respect and awe. "You have proven that humans are not a liability. Your tenacity, it's remarkable. We underestimated your strength, both physical and mental." "Underestimated?" I said, managing a tired smile. "You weren't the only ones. I think we all learned something today." The Rackle's demeanor had shifted. "We cannot allow ourselves to be seen as weak. You have shown us that our fears can be overcome when we stand together. We must forge this alliance and unyielding bond to face future threats." With that, a murmur spread through the remaining Rackle delegates. They exchanged glances, a silent agreement forming among them. "We will not merely ally ourselves with humanity, we will protect each other," Cathar declared, his voice resolute. A cheer erupted among the Rackle, and for the first time, I felt a genuine warmth spreading through me. We had not just survived, we had forged a bond that transcended fear and skepticism. As we regrouped, Orion turned to me, a grin breaking through the grime and fatigue. "Can you believe it? They're actually going to ally with us." "I can," I replied, my heart swelling with pride. "But it's not just us they're allying with. It's humanity as a whole." The atmosphere shifted from one of dread to celebration as we began to understand the significance of what we had accomplished. This wasn't just a victory, it was a turning point, a moment that could change the trajectory of our species among the stars. As we left the conference hall, Cathar fell into step beside us. "You have earned our trust, Noah. The power of humanity is indeed formidable, but we must remain vigilant. This alliance may come with its own challenges." "Challenges are what we thrive on," I said, my mind racing with the implications of our newfound partnership. "Together, we can face any enemy that threatens our existence." As we departed the Rackle homeworld, I reflected on what lay ahead. We had emerged from the shadows of doubt, our alliance forged in the fires of battle. This was more than just survival, it was the beginning of a new era, a united front against the darkness that lurked beyond the stars. In that moment, I felt a deep sense of hope. Humanity had found its place in the cosmos, not just as individuals, but as part of a larger tapestry woven with the threads of other species. We were no longer alone. As we soared through the star-speckled void, I glanced at Orion, his expression a mix of wonder and determination. "What do you think the future holds for us?" he asked, his voice thoughtful. "I think we're just getting started," I replied, a grin spreading across my face. "And whatever comes our way, we'll face it together." With that, we set our course for home, ready to embrace whatever challenges lay ahead. Together, we would chart a course into the unknown, united by our shared strength and the bonds we had forged in the heat of battle. In the vastness of space, humanity had taken its first steps toward a brighter future, and I couldn't wait to see what adventures awaited us. The surrender was just the beginning of something greater, a testament to the unyielding spirit of humanity among the stars.